The hardest conversation at work is usually the one everyone already knows needs to happen. A deadline is slipping. A teammate is struggling. A decision makes no sense. People discuss it privately, but when the meeting begins, the room goes quiet. That silence may look professional, but it is often fear wearing a suit. And Brené Brown's dare to lead begins with a challenging idea. The quality of leadership depends less on how certain we appear and more on how courageously we deal with uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Brown is not saying leaders should turn every meeting into group therapy. She is saying something much more practical. Whenever people create, change, disagree, give feedback, admit a mistake, or ask for help, vulnerability is already in the room. We do not get to remove it. We only choose whether to face it honestly or hide behind armor. That distinction matters because armored teams protect themselves, while courageous teams solve problems. This book grew out of Brown's research on courage, vulnerability, shame, and empathy, followed by years of work with leaders across companies, schools, nonprofits, and military organizations. Her central definition of leadership is broader than a job title. A leader is anyone who takes responsibility for finding potential in people and ideas and has the courage to develop that potential. By that definition, a manager can fail to lead, while a teacher, nurse, parent, or junior employee can lead every day. The book organizes courageous leadership around 4 abilities: rumbling with vulnerability, living into our values, braving trust, and learning to rise. The word rumble is important. It means entering a difficult conversation with curiosity, honesty, and a willingness to stay present. It does not mean winning an argument. It means refusing to run away, shut down, blame someone, or pretend we already know everything. Think about the last time you received uncomfortable feedback. Maybe your first reaction was to explain why the other person had misunderstood you. Maybe you became very logical, very cold, or suddenly too busy to continue the conversation. That reaction is armor. Brown describes armor as the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors we use to protect ourselves when we feel exposed. Perfectionism is armor. Cynicism is armor. Needing to be the smartest person in the room is armor. So are blame, control, emotional withdrawal, and fake confidence. Armor feels useful because it reduces discomfort in the moment, but it creates a hidden cost. If a leader punishes bad news, people stop bringing bad news. If mistakes trigger shame, people hide mistakes. If asking a question makes someone look weak, the team begins pretending to understand. Soon the organization has an information problem, but the real cause is an emotional one. People do not feel safe enough to tell the truth. Here is where Brown's argument becomes especially useful. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Giving honest feedback is vulnerable. Receiving it without becoming defensive is vulnerable. Launching an idea that may fail is vulnerable. Saying, "I don't know, but I'll find out," is vulnerable. None of these actions guarantees success. They make learning and trustworthy cooperation possible. Still, vulnerability has boundaries. It is not oversharing, emotional dumping, or revealing personal information to manufacture closeness. Brown warns against what she calls performative or manipulative vulnerability. A leader should share with a purpose and with appropriate boundaries. The question is not, how much can I reveal? It is, what does this situation require from me so that we can move forward honestly? One of the book's best tools is a simple phrase. The story I'm making up is, imagine that a colleague does not reply to 2 messages. Within minutes, your mind writes a complete explanation. They do not respect you. They are angry. They are deliberately blocking the project. But those are not facts. They are a first draft created by a brain that hates uncertainty. Instead of treating that draft as truth, you might say, the story I'm making up is that you disagree with the decision and are avoiding the conversation. Can you tell me what is actually happening? That sentence is vulnerable because it reveals your interpretation without accusing the other person. It separates observation from invention and turns suspicion into a question. How many conflicts in your own life began not with what happened, but with the meaning you silently attached to it? Brown calls these early explanations our rough, first stories. Under pressure, we fill missing information with fear, previous experience, and worst-case assumptions. Strong teams reduce this kind of story making through clarity. In Brown's memorable phrase, clear is kind. Unclear expectations may feel polite at first, but they usually create resentment later. Suppose you tell someone, please make the presentation better. Better in what way? Shorter? More visual? More detailed? Ready for executives or ready for customers? A courageous leader takes the extra minute to explain what done looks like, who owns the decision, what constraints matter, and when the work is due. This can feel demanding, but vague instructions followed by disappointed criticism are far less kind. The second major practice is living into our values. Most organizations have attractive values printed on a wall: integrity, innovation, respect, excellence. Brown's point is blunt. A value that does not produce observable behavior is only a slogan. If courage is one of your values, what do you do when a senior person is wrong? If family is a value, what behavior protects family time? If fairness matters, what happens when fairness costs you convenience or popularity? Brown recommends choosing a very small number of core values, then translating them into behaviors. For example, if curiosity is a value, supportive behaviors might include asking questions before giving advice, checking assumptions, and seeking perspectives that challenge your own. Slippery behaviors might include interrupting, rushing to certainty, or surrounding yourself with people who agree with you. This translation matters because values are tested under pressure, not when the choice is easy. Now consider a difficult decision. Two options both have advantages, and neither feels comfortable. A clear value does not always give you a painless answer, but it gives you a direction. It becomes a handrail in the dark. You may still disappoint someone. You may still feel afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear in Brown's framework. It is choosing behavior that matches your values while fear is present. The third practice is building trust. Trust often sounds vague until Brown breaks it into specific behaviors using the acronym BRAVING: boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. Boundaries mean I am clear about what is okay and what is not. Reliability means I do what I say, and I avoid promising more than I can deliver. Accountability means I own mistakes, apologize, and make amends. Vault means I protect information that is not mine to share. This includes refusing to build closeness through gossip about someone else. Integrity means choosing courage over comfort and practicing values rather than merely announcing them. Non-judgment means we can ask each other for help without turning need into shame. Generosity means I begin with the most generous, reasonable interpretation of your intentions while still addressing the impact of your behavior. What makes this framework powerful is that it turns "I don't trust you" into a conversation. Is the problem reliability? Broken confidentiality? Unclear boundaries? Refusal to admit mistakes? Trust rarely collapses because of one dramatic event. More often, it grows or shrinks through small moments. Brown uses the image of a marble jar. Each kept promise, honest answer, respected boundary, and act of discretion adds a marble. Each careless breach removes one. There is an important warning here. Generosity does not mean ignoring evidence, tolerating abuse, or endlessly excusing harmful conduct. Vulnerability without boundaries is not courage, and trust without accountability is not trust. Brown's approach works best when openness is paired with clear standards and real consequences. The fourth practice is learning to rise. If we choose courage, we will eventually fail, get rejected, misunderstand someone, or discover that we were wrong. Telling people to fail fast is easy. Teaching them what to do with embarrassment, disappointment, and shame is much harder. Brown's process begins with recognizing that we have been emotionally hooked. The body often notices before the mind does: a tight jaw, racing thoughts, a hot face, an urge to send an angry message. The next step is curiosity. What am I feeling? What facts do I actually have? What story am I inventing? What am I afraid this event says about me? That pause creates room between emotion and action. It does not erase the feeling. It prevents the feeling from secretly driving the car. Then comes the rumble with the story. We compare our first interpretation with reality. We ask questions, gather facts, and identify what we need to learn. Finally, we integrate that learning into future behavior. A failed presentation may reveal that you needed more preparation. It may also reveal perfectionism, unclear expectations, or a fear of asking for help. Rising means more than recovering your mood. It means becoming wiser because you examine the fall. Brown's research is valuable because it gives ordinary language to experiences that many workplaces pretend do not exist. Her credibility comes from decades of qualitative research and extensive work with organizations. But the book also has limits. Many examples depend on self-reported experience, and concepts such as courage or wholeheartedness are difficult to measure with the precision we expect in experimental science. Some readers may also find the vocabulary dense or repetitive. More importantly, personal courage cannot repair every structural problem. An employee cannot solve discrimination, unsafe working conditions, impossible workloads, or abusive power simply by becoming more vulnerable. In a genuinely unsafe environment, armor may be protection rather than dysfunction. Leaders carry greater responsibility because they control incentives, consequences, information, and resources. Asking people to speak honestly without protecting them from retaliation is not courageous leadership. It is transferring risk downward. So the best way to use Dare to Lead is not as a command to expose yourself. Use it as a diagnostic tool. Where is fear shaping behavior? Where are expectations unclear? Which values are real and which are decoration? What specific behavior has weakened trust? What story are you treating as fact? And when someone takes an interpersonal risk, does the system reward honesty or punish it? You can begin this week with 4 small actions. Name one conversation you have been avoiding and enter it with a question instead of an accusation. Choose 2 values and define the behaviors that would make them visible. Use braving to identify one precise trust issue. And when you feel emotionally hooked, write down the facts, your first story, and what you still need to learn. The deepest message of Dare to Lead is that courage is not a personality type reserved for fearless people. It is a collection of skills practiced by people who are often afraid. Brave leaders are not the ones who always know the answer. They are the ones who can stay curious when certainty disappears, remain accountable when they make a mistake, and protect honesty when honesty becomes uncomfortable. That changes the question from, am I brave enough to lead? To what courageous behavior can I practice next? Think about your own workplace, family, or community. Which would make the greatest difference right now? A clearer conversation, a stronger boundary, an honest apology, or the courage to ask for help? Share your answer in the comments, along with the book you would like OneBook to explore next.